Hi guys, my name is Renato Felizola and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna show you how to create two different virtual networks and three different servers using Ubuntu server. But actually, we're gonna set up a peering point to be able to connect two different virtual networks. Okay, so this scenario is going to be this. We have our VNet 1 and our VNet 2. So in my VNet 2, I'll have two different servers, Ubuntu Server 2 and Ubuntu Server 3. And they are in a different subnet. Okay? For my VNet 1, I'll have one Ubuntu server, which is just a Class C network. And there's just one server on my virtual network 1. At the end of our lab, we'll be able to ping each other. Okay, so at first, those servers here that are inside my VNet 2, they will be able to ping each other, but they won't be able to ping my Ubuntu server 1. And the reason is because they are in a different virtual network. But because they are inside the same virtual network, they can ping each other. Okay, so let's start. First thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go to virtual machines because we're gonna do this lab and this scenario from scratch. First thing, I'm gonna create my first Ubuntu server. Let's go create virtual machine. My resource group, I can create a new one, but I'm gonna use the one I have created, which is virtual machine. My virtual machine name is Ubuntu server 1. Region, I can keep East US. Availability options, availability zone. Availability zone is going to be zones 1. Security type is standard. My image is the default that comes with Azure, which is Ubuntu Server 20.04 LTS. And the size is going to be just this I have selected, which is like the cheapest one. It's just for studying. Authentication type, I will change it from SSH public key to password. And username, I need to enter the username and I will type my password. I need to confirm. Public inbound ports, allow selected ports. So select inbound ports, I will keep the way it is, which is SSH port 22. We're not going to use port 443, not even port 80. And then we can go next. This is the disk. OS disk type, we have those options here: premium SSD, standard SSD, standard HDD. I'll keep the first one, premium locally redundant storage. And this is a very important option. We should keep this checked, which is delete with VM. So if I delete my VM and this is unchecked, my storage will be kept. Okay, so I'm gonna delete together with my virtual machine. So we can check this. Encryption type, we can leave the default encryption at rest with a platform managed key. That's fine, and we're not gonna create another or a new disk. So we can go to next to set up our networking. This is a very important part. We would need to create a new virtual machine. So the way we need to set up is the same as this. So the name is VNet1 and my network is 192.168.100.10 and my subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, which is a Class C, and that means a slash 24. So I'm gonna create and the name is going to be VNet1. It comes with this default address range. I'm gonna change to 192.168.100.0/24. Okay, and then subnet name, I'll do subnet 1, and the address range is 192.168.100.0/24. That's fine, and then we can go OK. So if you see here, that says your virtual network is VNet1 and your subnet is 192.168.100.0/24, which is exactly this one here, 192.168.100.10. This is just the IP address for the host, and this is just the IP address for my network. Network interface card, network security group, we will keep basic public inbound ports, allow selected ports, so same thing as the first tab. So we're not gonna use RDP or HTTPS, either HTTP. We're gonna use just SSH, which is our secure shell, on port 22. So we can go next. Management, we will not change anything from this part. Boot diagnostics, we can keep enable with manage storage account, which is the recommended. Leave the way it is. We can go to next, advanced, and advanced the same thing. We're not gonna change anything here. We can go next. Tags, let's just do Linux, value Linux, and Ubuntu, and same thing here, Ubuntu, and that's fine. We can go to next, review, and create. It's gonna check the setup if everything I have set up is fine, and it says validation passed. I can review all the setup I have done, and this is the price per hour for my virtual machine. So because everything is fine, validation has been passed, so we can just create our first virtual machine. So creating a new virtual machine, this step takes a few minutes. Then let's just wait a little bit more. It will create the resources first, as you can see. So it has created my virtual network, the IP address, my network security group, my network interface card, which is like my Ubuntu server 1376 Z1. It's like the name Azure gives to us, to this virtual machine, and it's creating my Ubuntu server 1 itself. It says deployment succeeded. We can go to the resource, and then we would need to change the IP address. So for default Azure virtual machine, it comes with a DHCP server, but as this is a server, we're gonna use a static IP address. So we're gonna set up 192.168.100.10. Because we are already in our Ubuntu server 1, we have to go to our settings and go click on networking. Now it's time to change our network interface, so we can click here in our network interface card. Just click on that, and then in our settings, IP configurations, click on that. There we go. Now it says that the version for my IP is IPv4, the type is primary, and this is the important part. So this is my public address 20.124.92.16, but this is the private IP address. So we would need to change from dynamic to static and from .4 to .10, because we're not looking for a .4, we're looking for a .10, 192.168.100.10. Let's go back, click here, and then assignment, we would need to change from dynamic to static and just change from 4 to 10. That means that the IP address for this virtual machine is going to be 192.168.100.10. We can save. The saving process, it just takes a few seconds. Let's just wait a bit more. Almost there. Just a few more seconds. There we go. Saved network interface. We can close this. And we can go back to our virtual machines. And there we go. So we have our Ubuntu server, and it says that this virtual machine is running. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna click on that, and here it says public IP address. We just have to copy that. I'm gonna open a new terminal, and I'm gonna use the SSH command with the username at my public IP address to access this machine remotely. I'm gonna hit enter, and it says, are you sure you want to continue connecting? We can say yes, because it's gonna write our fingerprint. Let's say yes, and then I can enter my password. There we go. Now it's time to check the IP address for our Ubuntu server 1, and this is exactly what we are looking for. The IP address is 192.168.100.10/24, which is exactly this, 192.168.100.10. So now it's time to create our second virtual machine, and after that we will create our third virtual machine. So let's go back to our Azure, and then we can go to virtual machine, and same process. This time I will be quick. So click on Azure virtual machine, and resource group, we just have to associate to virtual machine. Virtual machine name is, this is my Ubuntu server 2. Same thing here. Change from SSH public public key to password. Gonna enter my username, and I will create my password. I need to confirm. There we go. Same thing, inbound ports. Same thing here. I'll keep delete with VM. This is important. Networking, and now, as this is my second server, and we're not gonna use VNet 1 because VNet 1 we have created. So we need to create our VNet 2, because my Ubuntu server 2 is going to be part of my VNet 2. Okay, so I need to create a new, and the name is just VNet 2. Okay, and the address is going to be 192.168.200.10. Sorry, 200.0/24. Okay, so this is going to be a different Then the first one we created, .0/24, and the subnet name. I'm gonna do subnet 1. So my subnet 1, the address is going to be the network 192.168.200, but now it's 0. Okay, 192.168.200.0. Oops, /28. It's fine, and I will create my second my subnet number 2, my second subnet, which is going to be 192.168.200.16/28. Okay, so same thing here. My VNet 2, the address range, and my first subnet, and my second subnet. So same thing, VNet 2, the range 192.168.200.0, and the other one is my subnet 2 is 192.168.200.16. So then we can hit OK, and this is fine. Now we can go next. Let me go back to previews, and there's an option here to delete public IP and NIC when VM is deleted. I will select that and go next. Not gonna change anything here. Go next. Not even here. Go next to tags. I'm gonna use Linux for my value, just Ubuntu and Ubuntu, and then we can review and create. It's gonna check my setup. There we go, and it says validation passed, so I just have to create my Ubuntu server 2. Same thing as the first one. This process will take a few minutes. Let's just wait a little bit more. If we click here, we can see the notifications and the current status for our deployment. So now it says deployment in progress. But same thing for the first. We're gonna set up the IP address. We're gonna change from dynamic to static. Same process as we did for our Ubuntu server 1. Let's go here. Okay, that's fine. It shows deployment succeeded. Let's go to resource. Now I'm in my Ubuntu server 2, and same thing, go to networking, go to the interface, network interface card, and IP configurations. I'm gonna change from 192.168.200.4, and from dynamic, I'm gonna click on that, to static. So instead 4, I'm gonna do 10, which is my Ubuntu server 2, so 192.168.200.10. So same thing here, and then we can save. Again, this process takes a few seconds. Let's just wait a little bit more until it gets saved. I'm logged to my Ubuntu server 1. It says saved network interface. Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna open a new window, and I need to go to my Ubuntu's let me go back to our virtual machines and then Ubuntu server 2, and I'm gonna copy my public IP address, the public IP address for my Ubuntu server 2. And same thing, SSH, the username, at in the IP address, my public IP address. We need to accept the fingerprint, say yes, and I'm gonna enter the password. There we go, and I will check the IP address. Okay, 192.168.200.10/28, which is exactly what we are looking for. 192.168.200.10 and a /28. That means 255.255.255.240. Let's go create our Ubuntu server 3. Let's go back to virtual machines, create Azure virtual machine, same thing. Resource group, I'm gonna choose virtual machine name Ubuntu server 3. Same thing here, and I'm gonna change password. I'm gonna enter my user, and I need to type my password. Let me try that again. There we go. Inbound ports, same idea. Next. Disks, same thing here. I'll be quick. And VNet 1, I need to change this third machine here is going to be VNet 2, but now using a Subnet 2. Okay, so this is my VNet 2, which I have created, and Subnet 1, and I need to select my Subnet 2. Okay, so we have Virtual Network 2, VNet 2, and Subnet 2, 192.168.200.16/28, which is fine. And I will keep this on to delete public IP and my network interface card when virtual machine is deleted. Let's go next. Nothing to change here. Let's go next. Same thing, nothing to change here. Tags, I'm gonna just use the same name and same value, Ubuntu. Let's preview. And there we go. Validation passed, so I'm gonna create this virtual machine. So the idea is the same. It's going to set the IP address for my Ubuntu server 3 dynamically, and I would need to change from dynamic to static, same thing as we did for our server 2 and for our Ubuntu server 1. It's still deploying. Let me check here. Deployment in progress. There we go. Deployment succeeded. We can go to resource, and same thing we have done. We can go to networking as we are in our Ubuntu server 3. We can go to networking and network interface. Click on that. And IP configurations. Let's click on IP configurations, and this is actually the correct IP address. That is exactly what we are looking for. For my Ubuntu server 3, 192.168.200.20, but actually it's using dynamic, so we just have to click here, and as the IP address is correct, we just have to click static and confirm, so then we can save. Okay, it's gonna save the setup. Okay, successfully saved IP address. Let's go back to our virtual machine, and then I'm gonna click on my Ubuntu server 3, and I'm gonna copy the public IP address. So same thing, I'm gonna create a new window, and I need to connect to this server remotely. I'm gonna paste my public IP address. We need to accept the fingerprint, and I'm gonna enter the password. There we go. Let me check the IP address, and there we go, 192.168.200.20/28. So that is exactly what, let me open all of them. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this 20. This is my 10. Let me do this, let me do this, and the other one is this one here. Okay, there we go. Let me just minimize this, organize this. There we go. So this is my Ubuntu server 1. So we can see that the IP address is 192.168.200.10. Oops, sorry. This is my, let me organize this. There we go. So this is my Ubuntu server 1, which is 192.168.100.10, which is exactly this one here. This is my Ubuntu server 2, 192.168.200.10, which is this one here, Ubuntu server 2. And this is my Ubuntu server 3, and the IP address is 192.168.200.20, which is my Ubuntu server 3. So what we're gonna do is, let me organize this. What we're gonna do is, I'm gonna test from my Ubuntu server 3, which is this one here, if I can ping my Ubuntu server 2, and if I can ping my Ubuntu server 1. And I'm gonna do the same thing for my Ubuntu server 2. So from my Ubuntu server 2, if I can ping Ubuntu server 3 and Ubuntu server 1, and same thing for from my Ubuntu server 1, if I can ping my VNet 2 servers. So actually the way Azure does is, even if they are in a different subnet, but because they are in the same virtual network, those servers will be able to ping each other, but they won't be able to ping my Ubuntu server 1. And why? Because my Ubuntu server 1 is in a different virtual network. So to be able to ping from one virtual network to another virtual network, we would need to set up the peering. Okay, so let's try first to ping from my Ubuntu server 2 to my Ubuntu server 3. So this is my Ubuntu server 2, and I'm gonna try to ping 192.168.200.20, and there we go. So I can ping from my Ubuntu server 2 to my Ubuntu server 3. Okay, gonna cancel this. And now I'm gonna try to ping from my Ubuntu server 2 to my Ubuntu server 1, which is in another VLAN, in another virtual network, 192.168.100.10, and it's not able, I'm not able to ping a different virtual network. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing from my Ubuntu server 3, ping 192.168.200.10, and there we go. So I'm able to ping from my Ubuntu server 3 to my Ubuntu server 2, and now I'm gonna check from my Ubuntu server 3 to my Ubuntu server 1, and I'm not able to ping because Ubuntu server 1 is in a different virtual network. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to ping from my Ubuntu server 1, 192.168.200.10, and I'm not able to ping again because I'm just in a different virtual network. And just to confirm, I will try my Ubuntu from my Ubuntu 1 to my Ubuntu server 3, and same thing. I'm not able to ping because they are in a different VLAN. So what we're gonna do now is let me cancel this, let me cancel this, and let me cancel this. I'm gonna go back to my Azure, and I'm gonna go to my virtual networks, and in my virtual network 1 I need to click on that, and there is an option called peering. So it says not configured. So I'm gonna click here. It says seamlessly connect 2 or more virtual networks. So that's exactly what we are looking for. But because it's not configured, those servers cannot reach the other virtual network. So we're gonna click here on peerings, and then we need to add a new connection, a new peering. So let's go add, and peering link name we can do like VNet 1, that's just a name, 2 VNet 2. And traffic to remote virtual network we need to allow. Traffic forwarded from remote virtual network we need to allow. Network gateway not gonna use. And now it's the opposite, remote virtual network. So the name is going to be VNet 2 to my VNet 1. That's just the opposite. Okay, virtual network deployment model, I'm gonna keep resource manager. My Azure subscription is going to be 1, and this is the network I want to reach out. So because I'm setting up from my VNet 1, this is my remote VNet. So the remote VNet actually is my VNet 2. And same thing, traffic to remote virtual network we need to allow, and traffic forwarded from remote virtual network we need to allow. Same thing for gateway, none. Let's add. Okay, peering status, it says updating. Let's just wait. I'm gonna click here to see the notifications. It says successfully added virtual network peering. Okay, it shows updating. Let me refresh. Let's just wait a little bit more. Let me try to refresh the entire browser, and there we go. So now it shows that my peering is connected. Okay, so the name is like VNet 1 to VNet 2. The peer actually is the other side, which is like my remote virtual network, and the peering status is connected. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna try to ping again from my Ubuntu server 1 to my Ubuntu server 2. So ping, which is, it wasn't working before. Now let me check 192.168.200.10. There we go. So now we can ping from our Ubuntu server 1, even if they are in a different virtual networks. Okay, I'm gonna pause this and I'm gonna check if I can ping the other one, 20. I also can ping Ubuntu server 3. And now I'm gonna check from my Ubuntu server 2 if I can ping my Ubuntu server 1, 100.10. There we go. And I'm gonna try from my Ubuntu server 3 to my Ubuntu server 1. Ping 192.168.100.10. There we go. So we can ping all of our environment, but we needed to set up the peering. So for this class, now we know how to create a virtual machine. Now we know how to set up a virtual network. We know how to set up a subnet, and we know how to set up a peering. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please have us a thumbs up, give us a comment, add subscribe to our channel, and thank you so much, guys. See you on the next video. Take care.